Hello, Adam. Hello, Rachel. We'll start in about a minute's time, okay? Good evening, everyone. It's 7 o'clock. I think we'll get started. I was encouraged to start early, but I don't think we're allowed to, Councillor Goldstone. Welcome everyone to this special council meeting, specifically around the budget, but we've also added the proposed budget from the Northern Adelaide Waste Management Authority. And we have Adam Faulkner and Rachel Zhu with us tonight from Norma, who will be answering questions if there are questions, etc. And you also, I think, speaking to the draft budget, I think, Adam and Rachel. Welcome. So welcome, everyone. I'd like to acknowledge this land that we meet on tonight is the traditional lands for the Kaurna people, and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the custodians of the Greater Adelaide region, and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still as important to the living Kaurna people today. So tonight we have 3 apologies. We have an apology from Councillor Fraser, an apology from Councillor Tooley, and an apology from Councillor Vallelonga. And everyone else is here. Any motions to grant leave of absence? There being none. And I have no other leave of absence on the books, and I don't have any non-attendance. I'd like to welcome staff here this evening. Our minute taker, Chris. Welcome, Chris. Our CEO, Henry Innett. Welcome, Henry. And our senior leadership team, all of you here, Paul, Sam, Ryan, Erin and Emma. Welcome, everyone. And anyone who might be listening on YouTube, welcome. So first of all, we don't have anybody in the gallery for public open forum. Are there any declarations of interest, councillors? I don't believe there are, so I'll keep moving. So we'll move on to the officer reports, and the first one is, and I'm on page 4 of 39 of our agenda, is the draft 221-22 Northern Adelaide Waste Management Authority budget. And I'd like to welcome Mr. Adam Faulkner, who's the CEO of Norma. Dodged a bullet there, Adam, not using Visi. How cool is that?
Anyway, certainly one of the benefits, yeah. Yep.
It's another advantage for being part of Norma. I'd like to welcome you, Adam, and also Rachel Zhu with us tonight, who will be presenting the budget. So, Adam or Rachel, is there anything you want to add at this stage?
No, we sent across a slide pack, Mayor, so hopefully that is with you.
Can you hear, Adam?
Yeah, I can
Hang
hear
on a minute, Adam. You're really, really quiet. Emma, is there any way of turning Adam up? Just one moment. We can barely hear you.
Okay.
And we're just sort of... Have you got a presentation, Adam? Have you?
There was a slide pack sent across, yeah.
Oh, was it? Okay, so Adam, you can share. Do you want to share? Have you got it on your desktop?
I can do that relatively quickly. Hang on, just for a second.
And you can share your screen, Adam.
Yep, just 2 seconds.
Oh, do I need to turn it up here or not? Can I turn it up on this main computer, or does that make it? So for people watching at home, we're just waiting for the screen to be shared from Adam, and he has a few slides he wants to present.
Okay, so you should have me now, yes?
Yes, we can. We
Great.
can. Yes, tick. Well done.
Well done, thank you. And you can hear me okay, Mayor? Yep.
Everyone can see that. And
great. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for having us tonight. So I hope my sound is okay. I don't think I have administration. Yes, I do. Okay, so you know all about us, and Mayor, thank you for the time tonight. One of the benefits, as you mentioned, of being part of NORMA is we run our own recycling facility. So there was a lot of panic in local government land last week, and we were fortunate enough to have our facility up and running and servicing your constituents. We're going to move through this pretty quick tonight because you've seen a lot of this material before, and the reason we're moving through it quickly is not because it's any less important than previous years, but the numbers we're proposing are quite modest and below CPI. So we're really asking council to consider our draft budget, acknowledge the work that's been done by the board and the boards before it. We're now employing over 100 people in the region, and we're really proud of that fact. And you know, that's from your community and the communities of Playford and Salisbury and surrounds. The growth in our services, the growth in your council area is big, and the hard waste service and the amount of volume of material being put out continues to grow, and that's one of our challenges. Busy slide. This slide is simply to say we do much more than just collect your residents' green, yellow and red bins and hard waste. We also offer an education service. We also have a customer service function, and we receive and process all materials from the household. Our contracts are roughly around about $1 million a month, so it's not insignificant. Our commitments were huge and ambitious, and COAG adopted many of those and said if the councils in the north of Adelaide can do it, so can everyone else. And this is essentially what the federal government are trying to get the rest of the country to do. So again, leadership from yourselves and the other constituent councils around this. Busy slide. All this slide is to say is the board are focused on 2025. We have a horizon of about 4 years to do everything. So we are flat out doing that for you. I will hand over to Rachel just to walk you through the budget. Like I said, we'll go pretty quick because the numbers hopefully are pretty modest and palatable for you. Over to you, Rachel. I think you're on mute, Rachel.
Unmute, please. Rachel, turn your mic on.
Yeah, is that better?
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you, everyone. Now, I would like to have a quick overview on NORMA's 2021 and 2022 draft budget and associated with the waste service cost for a tonne of Gola. So next year's budget, NORMA is pleased to forecast a modest operational surplus along with our $45 million operating budget and around $1.6 million capital budget. So this budget is all around helping our constituent councils to maintaining the low cost of waste service for their communities. So hence this budget is centered around cost saving activities, waste diversions, and operational excellence. Reflecting this strategy, and at our recent council, our board endorsed the temporary gate fee to be reduced from $15 to $5 a ton from 1st of April, and then a further reduction in this draft budget to be reduced from $10 to $5 from 1st of July this year. So this dashboard is from 3 areas to highlight Norma's key activities, projects, and the movement in the next financial year. One of the things I would like to highlight here is Norma is working very closely with our constituent councils to utilize more recycled glass fines into our roadworks and footpaths. The other thing I would like to mention here is Norma is processing almost 50% of South Australia yellow bin recycling systems. This is a very big figure, and we are able to. We have two-thirds of our material are coming from external client councils. This is where we can gain the benefit from our external customers and lower our constituent councils' gate fees. Next slide, please. Thank you. Again, this is a very busy slides. As you can see on the left bottom tables, the controllable cost is only increased about 0.8%, while the non-controllable cost is increased about 1.4% year on year. Next slide, please, Adam. Yep. This is our gate fee service graph. The first two are the big decrease, as you can see, year on year. So the MRF's gate fee is decreased from $15 to $5, and glass fines is going to be $103 a ton. Well, in the same period last year, the council are paying $166 for the volume going to landfill. So what that means to a ton of Gola means 25 grand savings a year. It means all recycling jobs are created. It also means less waste going to landfill. This is a summary for this budget. So this budget is proposed a moderate increase year on year, 0.8% on the controllable cost and 1.4% on the non-controllable cost for ton of Gola. That's due to the anticipated increase in solid waste levy and the harder waste participations. In terms of the longer term strategic outlook, Norma have a strong and sustained focus on budget on the business case that invest the fund into our region and to create more jobs, improve our environmental outcomes. We think it will be soon have some very exciting news coming available, and as we think we may be eligible for a $12 million recycling fund opportunity, but we are not allowed to say much at the moment because this is confidential item at the moment. I think that's about all for our presentations, Adam, and we open for any questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Adam and Rachel. So you mentioned $12 million recycling funding opportunity. If we were to get that money, what would it be spent on?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And I managed to get rid of the children tonight, but the beagle, I couldn't. I'm sorry. So he's hovering in the background there. That's Captain Wishbone. So the embargo, 12 million. We're hoping it may be as early as next week, and certainly we'll make sure yourself and the elected members know as soon as possible. But it's around paper recycling. So we currently take all the yellow bin, we sort it into different material streams. This funding would go a step further and control more of the paper recycling supply chain. So basically more paper recycling in the region, a few more jobs, but more importantly, some federal and state government money coming back into the region.
Oh, okay. So, Councillor Shanks, you got an email from Mr. Ralph Perry about green bins and a weekly. Was his question around a weekly bin for green waste, or?
Yeah, I actually was going to ask that question while we had the representation here from Norma. There's been a bit of conversation around green bin and also potentially recycling bin moving to a weekly cycle, and then the red bin moving to a fortnightly cycle. Is that any conversations like that happening on a Norma level?
So good question, and through the Mayor, what we're doing at the moment, so the answer is no. The Norma board don't have a position on changing the frequency of the curbside bin system, so that's very clear. But what we're doing at the moment is we're out in your community, and for the first time, certainly in my 24 years of waste geekness, we're actually asking your residents and those of Playford and Salisbury, what exactly do you want in your bin system? And we are getting, we've had over 2,000 responses. We're getting some remarkable feedback, and some of that goes to your question. So we'll be funneling that information back through to the Norma board, who may form a position on it, and of course, council within their own right could form their own position on it. But at the moment, it's a weekly red, fortnightly recycle, and opt-in green fortnightly.
So when will we see the results of that engagement that you're doing?
Yeah, so thank you, Mayor. So those results will go back through to the June Norma board meeting. So we're very close. But I'm impressed at this point is the one size fits all model, and I know waste isn't front of mind for everyone else, but it is for me. The one size fits all model simply, I don't think is the solution. I think we're going to look at some variables.
I think that's probably right, but I think our recycling rate has actually gone up in Gawler in recent times. Do you have the data on that?
Yeah, definitely. Diversion is trending upwards, and it's going in the right direction. Still a tiny bit too much of the wrong stuff in the yellow bin, but your landfill diversion rate is up above 50% now, so which is where it needs to be.
So we've improved in Gawler. We've almost doubled our recycling rate, which is really, it sort of goes to that point that the resident, Mr. Perry, raised, I think. Okay, we'll look forward to getting that outcome and the feedback around that engagement, Adam. Any questions, Councillor Shanks?
Are you able to give us a bit of statistics or figures around how many residents actually have green bins in the town of Gawler? I know that's probably a on the cusp sort of question, but...
So I know it's around about 60%. So Rachel's nodding, so I must be pretty close. So 60% of your community are opting in.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions for Adam and Rachel? There being none. Thank you, Adam and Rachel, for coming along via Zoom. It's pretty cool, isn't it? We might get you to unshare your screen, Adam, and we can go back to our minutes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for running the best NERF in South Australia. Hey? No, there's only one other. There's only one other, isn't there? Yeah, it's still the best, isn't it? Yeah, very much, and it's setting a really good standard. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Adam and Rachel. Okay, so we have a recommendation that you got your hand up. Oh, did you have a question? No. Oh, sorry, Councillor Hughes. Do you want to move that motion? Do you? Okay.
Yeah, just quickly, yeah, really pleased, and it's so good every time you go through normal reports. They are really innovative, and we have discussed bin options and that for many years now, and to hear it's sort of coming to hopefully some conclusion. It's been a hot debate on talkback radio over the years as well, but I think it's all heading in the right direction with recycling and how much waste. I put our red bin out tonight and there was just one little bag in it, and you do feel as though it's silly when your recycling is overflowing. When you
should have
and the green bins are overflowing as well, actually, especially in our street. So yeah, no, I think it's really good, and it's great, the innovation, and that continues, and employing 100 people and being quite successful. I think it's really good. So happy to note the report.
Seconder, Councillor Little, do you wish to speak at all?
No, I'm over the moon because I was on council when we decided to do all this stuff, and then I got black band, and we picked your rubbish up, and it was one of those funny few weeks or months, but I said in the long term it would be a viable and better proposition than what we were doing, because we have to look after the earth we're on for the next generations, and I've got grandkids, and you had, and to see the pleasing increase is amazing, and having been to that place a few times over the years, it's just one of the best things Gore has ever done in trying to look after this earth we live on.
I can't believe we're nearly at 50%, which is just outstanding. We were down around, well, the average contamination rate across Adelaide is around 40%, but our recycling is it's in the last 2 years, it's just gone up and up and up, and that's a fabulous outcome. It'd be good to get it even higher. Yeah, they are very good. Yes, thank you, Councillor. Any other discussion, Councillor Koch?
Yeah, look, I'll support this. It's great to see the budget coming back the right way. We had a lot of issues around the China sword issue, where we couldn't export materials out of Australia, but luckily there's been more work done on using those resources in Australia, so that's important. And some of the, and Norma is actually still exporting some materials, but because they produce quality materials through the MRF, that's getting a higher value. So they're being able to sell that internationally now. So that's a competitive advantage that Norma has over a lot of other MRFs in Australia. So yeah, well done to Adam and Rachel and the staff down there, and ask everyone to support this motion. Thank you.
Any other discussion? If not, Councillor Hughes, you happy for me to put the motion? I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Thank you. So we'll move on to 5.2, which is on page 7 of and we're asking to receive and note the long-term financial plan update report. Oh, thanks, Emma. Probably don't need that mic against that anymore. So we have an officer's recommendation there. You happy to move that way, Councillor Goldstone? Do you wish to speak? Seconder? Councillor Hughes, do you wish to speak?
Other than it's a really well written report, a lot of detail. I think it sort of paints a really good picture of the future, and we are still looking at what the CPI increases. Currently they're sitting at 0 or 1%, but yeah, it's certainly important. The long-term financial plan is continually monitored and used. I mean, some councils don't do it as regularly as Gawler Council does. It's something Paul Horwood and his team do a lot of work on all the time, which is really good, but and really important to continue. So it's good.
Discussion? If not, Councillor Goldstone, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to 5.3, and I'm on page 22, draft fees and charges. We're receiving and noting. You happy to move that way, Councillor Hughes? Do you wish to speak at all?
No, other than I think it's fairly fair and reasonable. Again, the talk of the CPI around that 1 to 2%, and Joe, I think it's trying to be fair across the board with all the different fees. So I'm happy with the officer's recommendation.
Seconder? Councillor Little, do you wish to speak at all? Any discussion? Councillor Shanks?
Yeah, I just had a question, and just picking up on what Councillor Hughes said. Through you, Chair, probably to Paul, is it fair to make the comment that the fees and charges have pretty much only raised to align with CPI?
Paul?
Yes, through you, Michael. Yes, that's correct.
So it's in just under comments, and that where appropriate, the fees increases have been maintained at approximately 2%. Now, the CPI is 1. The local government price index is 0. However, they're expecting an increase with some weightings that haven't been released yet. Is that correct? Or have I got that wrong?
Through you, Mayor, only in the last, I think, 24 hours, that information has been released. I checked their website last night, and the LGPI reading for December is unchanged at 0%. However, I do point out the fact that that is heavily informed in arrears by the data that each council provides through the Grants Commission report, a data that's done on an annual basis. So I would suspect the intel at the moment is that would increase for the March 21 reading, which we wouldn't get for a couple of months. We'll get the March CPI reading at the end of April. It normally takes a little bit longer there to get the LGPI reading.
Okay. Any other discussion? If not, Councillor Hughes, happy for me to put the motion? I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. That's carried unanimously. Okay. Now, so now I'm on 5.4, and I'm on page 26 of 39, and we're receiving and noting the draft budget. Councillor Hughes, you happy to move that way?
Yeah, I'm happy at this stage to we receive and note the budget at this stage. It's not likely to be the final budget. I think there'll be other discussions as we go through the process, but at this stage, I'm quite happy to receive and note it. But yeah, certainly, this is still relatively early in our budget process, and there will be and we get feedback from our community as well. And I think there's councillors have got budget bids and things like that too. But yeah, happy at this stage tonight to note and receive it at this stage.
Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Little, you wish to speak at all?
Yeah, I'm the same view of Councillor Hughes. There's a few questions I have in relation to some of the areas, but I think it's just a noting thing, and we've got a chance later on with the budget review to iron out the bits and pieces that we want to do. So I'm quite happy to second the motion.
Discussion. Councillor Davies, Councillor Goldstone, and then Councillor Shanks. Did you have your hand up? Okay.
Yeah. So if this is just being noted, I'm happy to support the motion. I'm not necessarily in agreement with all of the suggested changes, but I guess that will be something that we discuss at a future point.
So I'll go around to Councillor Goldstone.
Just a question, really. I just wanted to know, when will we actually discuss the elected members' budget bids?
We can do that tonight.
Or there will still be opportunity down the track.
So the next opportunity, and we have a choice. I think the CEO has advised me that the budget will come up for council to endorse to go out to public consultation in the April council meeting. However, that will be within a range of officers' reports. And my view, which I sent an email around, just perhaps planting the seed, suggesting that maybe we pull that out and have that as a special council meeting just for the budget. We don't have to do that. However, I just wonder, given the discussions that we've had at our workshops, whether that might be something to consider. If it is, then please let me know, and CEO and I can arrange a suitable time. What's that? What? Oh, is that a can? What did you open up? It's opened up a can of worms. Anyway, I hope that helps. If you think, perhaps consider that and let me know, and we can arrange a suitable time. If you want it to leave it within the April, let us know as well. I mean, we can decide on that. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea, actually. And I don't think we need to go into the detail tonight, but as long as there is that opportunity to do it, so that sort of all of those elected members' budget bids can be discussed, and some of them hopefully will get bumped up off the line.
Councillor Shanks, you've got the floor now.
Probably just a question first. Are we able just to explain the process on, I mean, I think this is sort of the, correct me if I'm wrong, but the main event of this special council meeting where you're needing us to note and receive the budget as it sits, correct? Yep. So I guess for me, I'm a lot like the Mayor. I believe that, for the endorsement of community consultation, I believe there's a lot of conversation to be had around the way the budget sits at the moment. And I would be keen to pull it out and have a standalone meeting. I am sort of a little bit confused. I feel like we're ticking boxes tonight, to be honest. I feel like it's come in a week that we've had a lot on and we've put in a lot of effort doing a lot of reading, but there's really not much going to come of tonight unless we chuck in some amendments or whatever, which I'm not willing to do, to be honest. But look, I guess I'm happy to note the budget, and I do know that we've got some further discussions to have. I look forward to those discussions. But I think for me, I sent an email a few weeks ago. I'd really like to see us tackle this process a bit differently next year. I will be sort of trying to have those discussions and maybe push for that in the chamber, because we've got a $33 million budget here, and this is now the second draft we've seen. And technically, we're going to talk about it as a group that is to own it for as long as this debate goes and as long as the last debate went. That, we're talking 25 minutes, half an hour where we've delved into this budget. Now, I think there's some fundamentals that are lacking, that's my personal opinion, in here. And it's not a crack at staff, it's not a crack at elected members, it's around the community reaching out to us as elected members and really telling us about the fundamentals over some of the more exotic items. I use boundary reform as an example, for example. And I think we really need to be careful in pursuing these big ticket items before getting the fundamentals right. And we've talked about footpaths over and over, for example. And I get this feeling that if we gave Sam and his team a bit more money, we would tick a lot more boxes on that level. It ties back to Kelvin's town beautification. It ties back to, even street art is tied into that community want of town beautification, footpath cleaning, all those fundamentals around playgrounds. It's just some of those seem to be falling below the line when other items are above. And without spending the time, and I think I suggested maybe a day conference, which I'm happy to take an annual leave day for, where we pick apart each line item. I don't mean pick apart in a malice way. I mean, let's see where we're at and why we're at this figure. and see if we can save some dollars here and there. Because as I pointed out in my email, we have a $33 million budget. If we can save 1%, which may even be from just items being rounded up, that's 330K. Those are the sorts of points that I think we should be looking at as elected members. And yeah, this is my second go to be able to try to put that out there. But as we sit tonight, like I said, I'm happy to receive this report because I did receive it, and I'm happy to note it because I have received it. But yeah, I'd really like to work together to try to see if we can actually delve into this process a little bit differently. I understand that this process might work for other people, but I'd like to open discussion in that regard.
CEO?
Yeah, thank you through the chair. The whole purpose of this special council meeting today is to present the draft budget, is to go through the detail, is to have the discussion about above the line and below the line, for the purposes of the administration then being better informed as to the positions of the elected members in this formal capacity of the budget. Because the intention is that when we do present the budget next, whether it's at the ordinary council meeting or at another special council meeting, then we do need the budget to be endorsed. We do need for it to go a draft budget, for it to be then released for public consultation. And as a number of members have said, that's not the final position by any stretch, but we do need to progress it. So if members do have thoughts about individual lines, that's what we need to discuss today, where we can, if they're fundamental. If they're not fundamental and you're happy for the budget to be presented to the next council meeting, again, and or special, then that is where it is somewhat mission critical that we then get an endorsement for it to be released for public consultation, because we're running out of time relative to the financial year, and we're certainly wanting to strike the budget, if not late June, then early July.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Absolutely.
Well, if that is the process and we're to say, well, we want go back and forth around above, below, how are we to vote on actually making that happen? Because does that make sense? Because if I turn around and say, well, you know what, I want boundary reform below the line, does that go to a vote and we vote on everything that I want to change around? Do I turn around and say, you know what, I want 1% taken off of every item because I think there is some saving in that? Do we vote about that now? How does that work on a process level? Because at the moment, it's got here, the recommendation is that we note the report.
So we've got a motion on the floor. It's been moved and seconded. You can amend the motion, but it sounds like you want to put up a separate motion. I will allow that if you have a motion that is valid and it can be tested.
Yeah, I don't.
Okay. Any other discussion? Councillor Goldstone?
Yeah, just getting back to these members' budget bits again. If I'm right, they total up to about 410,000, which is about 1.4% of the budget or thereabouts. Which is a relatively modest amount compared to the total budget. There's some members missing tonight.
Yeah.
They're not going to have the opportunity
That's
to push
right.
on their budget.
Yeah.
Bid. I certainly am going to be pushing for the beautification plan to be go above the line, and I'm still a bit confused. If Henry's saying we should do that tonight, so be it.
Well, you can do it at any stage. I mean, the best, if I may, if we have a budget discussion and it's a special council meeting, that should give us enough time to discuss alternative motions that can be tested, additions to existing motions, etc. The best time to do it in my view, is before we go out to public consultation, so people know what we're thinking. You can change a budget right up until it's endorsed, technically. However, is it good practice? Perhaps not. But it is technically possible to do that. However, if you want the community to know what this council thinks, you put out a draft budget that you want people to comment on. And if you're not going to include, like you said, Councillor Goldstone, 440,000 worth of budget bits and then throw them in after, people may, because the draft budget will go out, I suspect, without under the line stuff in there. Is that correct?
Yeah. Go out for consultation. We do show all the budget bids above and below the line. Certainly correct. My view has certainly always been that it's to endorse a budget for consultation that the council would think would resemble what they'd ultimately adopt. It's not really good practice to adopt a budget that's materially different to what you've consulted with. So,
well, as I said, I'd like you to consider a special council meeting. Personally, I think it's a good idea, given the discussion we've had not only tonight but before tonight, and also the fact we've got 3 members missing. My view is every member should be here to discuss our budget. Or material changes to the budget. I think it should be. I think that's good practice. It's good transparency. However, bringing the budget, this is the first time the budget's come to a formal council meeting. It also gives the community an opportunity to have a really good look at the budget as public documents. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think before it goes out for consultation, preferably if we can put out a budget and people feel that there's not going to be any huge material change after that. I mean, things happen, things come along, and we have to change budgets. I'm not going to say, what is it? Never say never, because you always get caught out. However, I think good practice would be that we have a special council meeting. In my view, we have a good look at the budget. Bring along your alterations, but think about, may I suggest, not just adding 440, where test the waters around what can be taken out, so that the bottom line, because I go back to the financial indicators and our deficit position, we don't want to add to our deficit position. We are carrying a deficit, so think about that. When you bring your suggestions back, because I think that's important, and it shows good leadership too. We're saying, we'll bring that in, but maybe not that. Certainly, there's different views around the table. There's nothing wrong with that. But again, you test the waters, and it gets tested. But I think with everybody here, it's probably a better thing. Councillor Koch.
Well, thanks. I agree with that. I think if we had a special council meeting and discuss that, but also if selected members had budget bids, I think you really need to look at the consequences of those bids, not only the dollar amounts now to implement something, but the long-term effects, the maintenance, depreciation, et cetera. So that's put into the system, because it can affect our long-term business plan, and it could affect our financial indicators as well. So it's nice to have, let's do all this, fantastic, but it does have knock-on effects, over the life of a long-term financial plan. So people are just aware of that. Because it's not a free-for-all. There are impacts. And also, anything that potentially might move up, we need to really look at what we're going to move down. And is that our priorities? For example, there are big strategic things we should look at. For example, I think boundary reform is a really huge strategic activity we should be doing for our community, because they've asked for it endlessly. So sometimes the things are strategic and sometimes things are operational, and we need to make sure we maintain the strategic activities and not throw that out with the bathwater. Because in the end, there are endless footpaths you could do. You could spend all your money on footpaths or all your money on playgrounds endlessly, and you still wouldn't satisfy everybody. So you need to be a bit more strategic about things. So So anyway, I'm happy to note and receive this. but I'm happy to also have a special council meeting. But I do ask people that I would ask people that they come with the implications of what they're asking for, and what they think they're going to take, what wish to take down from above the line, and why that one has more merit than the other one. Thank you.
So another advantage of bringing this to this forum, it's also been to the audit committee, and our independent members have had a look at it. They had some good comments. I think the video is still available, Paul, online through YouTube, and we do have some good independent members. I'd urge you to have a listen to their feedback. There is some elements of it in the text, but I think listening to it is quite useful, because that's what they're there for, to provide that good advice. So I thought that was a good discussion. Paul, any comments around the audit committee feedback?
Thank you. On page 27 and 39 of the agenda, members, was relative to regarding the proposed increase in general rates. Existing ratepayers, the initial recommendation that was tabled to that meeting was proposing 2.5 to 3%. Recommendation, feedback, commentary from the audit committee was that for B between 2 to 2%. And I think that was one of the key. I think also reflecting on the fact that, yes, if we were to have a sort of half % lower rate increase, they were also reviewing the to making that would be a reduction in revenue. So have to look at reducing the expenditure there to offset that, because otherwise then if adjustment was the in the increase in the general rate revenue, there would be consequences on the operating deficit. So, 70% of our income budget, so it needs to consider its whole budget in its entirety.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Any other discussion, Councillor Shanks?
Just a question. I'm still just trying to get my head around the process here, and we have 5 minutes to speak. And you've seen our budget bids. We've sent them through. I don't understand the process on if ours are below the line, above the line, about how I can sum up in 5 minutes what needs to go above the line out of my bids, out of other councillors' bids, out of staff bids, out of ratepayer feedback. So I'll sum that up in 5 minutes, then we'll come back, and then I'll also tell you where we're going to save it all. I don't understand how that. I came into this meeting completely prepared differently because of the officer's recommendation and the way that the report was read. I didn't pick up on the fact that this was the meeting that we're going to go back and forth on this, if I'm being honest. And also the way we operate, I don't even know how I would physically, actually technically do that without points of order getting called around. So I'm lost, if I'm being honest. Am I able to get some clarity around how we were supposed to achieve that?
So on page 27, there is a paragraph. It says, this formal meeting now provides, for example, elected members the opportunity to formally consider motions relative to moving various proposed budget bids either above or below the line.
So I read that, but that still doesn't give me the technical advice on how I can sum all that up in 5 minutes. I read that as we're going to have a general discussion, which I touched on fundamentals, but I didn't get into the line items around where I can sum that up in 5 minutes. So I think it ties back to my email that was sent about 3 or 4 weeks ago, where I said, we've got some work to do here if we actually are going to provide input.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that hasn't been responded to date, but it's really, well, to be honest, it's just not really making much sense.
So what was your question?
How would I sum up what I sent a small novel about in 5 minutes
Well, I guess that's up to you.
on a $33 million budget?
Yeah, that's actually up to you how you would encapsulate key points in 5 minutes.
All right. Cheers.
Okay. Councillor Goldstein?
If we do have this extra special meeting
Yeah.
fairly soon, during that meeting we could suspend the procedures of the meeting to have like a workshop, more less formal discussion.
Yeah, I'm not inclined to do that. I'm certainly open to various motions to test the waters. I'm certainly open to that. Various separate motions and test the waters. I think that's a better way. Do formal debate. Everyone gets a crack equally if they so choose. Yeah, I think that would be a better way. So if we're going to have a special council meeting, I would suggest I beg your pardon? Well, I'm happy to accept motions without notice, but it has to be relevant to the budget and the budget papers. I won't accept random left field motions that are not relevant to the budget. And I will be quite tough on that, but if it's relevant to budget bids, for example, exactly what we've been talking about, if you choose to, you can, because the special council meeting will be about the budget, and any motion in there will be needing to be relevant to the budget. Yeah, that would be quite useful, and everyone can consider that. Yeah. Well, yeah, I know, and we haven't talked about that yet because no one actually got back to me, and we've only discussed it tonight. But that's okay. that's okay. But we can certainly think about a date. Yeah. Okay. All right. Any other discussion? No. Councillor Hughes, you happy for me to put the motion?
Just to probably clarify, I mean, we have had a number of meetings on the budget already to help and workshops, but also the audit committee has met a couple of times now as well. And those audit meetings, we spent a lot of time going through the budget. It's any councillor can become a member of the audit committee, and at the last time the nominations were there, I really stressed to councillors that it's a really good opportunity to get involved in the finances of the council, to be on the audit committee. And we are on the audit committee challenging the independent members really to be innovative and to help look for creative solutions. And there was a lot of challenging discussions with the independent members, with the CEO on different things, and just even on positions and things like that, which was really good. And yeah, as the mayor's already said, those videos are available to listen to. The independent members do have a handle on what other councils are doing as well, and what spheres they're looking at. And I think that's really important to be on top of, and to be looking. It's something that we haven't really looked at before, even for a while, is service levels and how we're going to deliver services. And I think Councillor Kosh has mentioned the long-term effects of different things as well. It's really important to be on top of that, and that's what the audit committee independent members are really superb at picking that. And I sort of also agree with what the mayor said about if we're putting things on, to look at taking things off as well. So I think that can be done at another meeting. But I think generally the budget is pretty. I think there will be some fine tuning, and that's what I sort of said at the start of this motion. But we could do that at a special meeting. But yeah, it would be good to have the majority of it settled for consultation with our community as well. So happy for tonight to note and receive this budget. Thanks.
I'll put that motion. All those in favour of the motion, please raise your hands. It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillor Shanks.
Yeah, Mayor, I'd like to defer this to another council meeting.
So Councillor Shanks is moving that the matter be deferred to a future council meeting. Happy with those words?
Can I speak to it? Members, it's a bit of a selfish move on my part, to be honest. I got these papers, got home Sunday from Victoria and realised the reading that we had in the special council meeting that had been called over the weekend. The special council, the separate rates came in on Monday. Unfortunately, I've had meetings every single night this week and I work full time. So if I'm being completely honest, if we do go ahead with this, I will have to leave the room because I can't give an educated vote one way or another on this one. So I'm moving to defer just with our workload, and I don't see any repercussions really on deferring this to give us a little bit more time.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Davies. Any discussion? Councillor Hughes.
Yeah, I'm a bit concerned that councillors haven't had a bit of time to put their mind to this, because I am concerned, especially with option one here, that we actually had quite a big debate at our last budget last year on this item of the separate rate and actually adding things to the separate rate. And option one actually then allows us to add things to the separate rate. And I don't want to stir up a hornet's nest with these landowners again. I'm actually considering option two as my option. And I am concerned that deferring this tonight will probably upset those landowners. And I think we had many presentations from landowners about putting extra funds into that separate rate, and option one is a 28% increase. So I think if we could deal with this matter tonight, and my preference would be looking at option two, just to clarify with our community our thoughts on this issue, because I am concerned. I think both options are good options, and I can understand why options one's there, but I am concerned that the longer we go without sorting this matter out, the more angst in our community over it.
Any other discussion? If not, I'll put that motion that the matter be deferred. Everyone understand the motion? Everyone understands the motion? I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against? It is carried. Okay, so that deals with that matter. Questions without notice? Motions without notice? I'll close the meeting. We will be in touch. I'll have a discussion with the CEO around a special council meeting, and as soon as we come up with a date, I'll circulate that, okay, for the budget. And I would put